What's going on YouTube? WestHobbiesRC. So today we are back with not one, but two SAB Raw 420 builds. So we are building the Orange Edition Raw 420. So now of course it's the same build, it's just going to be orange color scheme. So both of these are going to be identically built and we're going to build them side by side of each other at the same time. So of course, Torque CL508 on cyclic, 0604T on tail for both models, Spectrum SRXL2 for both models, Icon 2 flat barless unit, Hobby Wing 80 amp ESC, Pulse 6S 2600, and the SAB battery hold down for the XT60. So both models are identical. We're going to build both of these side by side for Andrew. So let's get started. We have gotten this far on both of them. We got the frame assemblies done, servos mounted, zeroed out. We got our ball ends on, and like on all the 420s, I like to put a 2mm nut on the back side just because it can pull out of the plastic, a little dab of Loctite. The nut stops it from ever pulling out. So we got both of those done. So now we're going to move on to the belt tensioner assembly, building them side by side of each other. Not any faster, but get them both done at the same time. Where we're at right now, got the head swash plate linkages done, everything Loctited, micro lubed. Got the boom belt tensioner and mounts, all that in. So now we can start on the tail casing. Of course, 1 and 2 are the same. I was messing around with the 3D printer and 3D printed some white motor guards just to see how they looked with the orange and white scheme going on. So I don't know if we're going to keep this style. Got the Raw 420 in them. I think we ordered some aluminum ones, so might replace them, but it was just something to mess around with. So both helicopters are at the same point. So now it is time to get the tail stuff out and start building the tail casing and assembly. Building the tail assembly for the 420, and I just want to touch on this again. Make sure you clean your screws, especially the little bags that these thrust bearings come in. They have oil on them. You can see all that oil, that residue all over my hand. All that machining oil is to stop rust from getting into the bearings and rusting up. These screws, which are the ball ends for the blade grip and the main screw that holds your blade grip onto your feathering tail shaft, cannot have grease on it when you go to use Loctite. So just a little bit of rubbing alcohol, clean your screws, dry them off, then Loctite, and you will have a perfect bond. Both tail assemblies are done, so everything is Loctited, micro lubed, nice and free and smooth. So we got 1 and 2. So now we can move on to the tail casing, and the belt casing is done. Belt's on, everything's Loctited. It is ready to go on the boom. Here is 1 and 2, but just look how incredible the orange boom looks. I'm not a huge orange fan, but wow, and it looks dark on camera. It's a really bright fluorescent orange. That looks awesome. So now I'm gonna get the guide on, get the tail casing and belt through the boom, get the servo mounted, and get the boom blocks put into the back of the frame. The tail casing and assembly Loctited onto the boom. We got our push rod guide and our belts coming out this end. So now it is time to get the servos ready, get the mounts in, and then the boom blocks on, and we can slide them in. But this orange looks incredible. I love that SAB actually paints their booms. It's not vinyl wrapped. So these are painted booms on all SAB models. And I didn't think the orange series was going to look this good, but it does. So it's pretty cool to see 2 of them side by side and being built at the same time. So let's get the servo mount ready, get the servo installed, and let's get the boom blocks. Tail servos are centered with the Torque T-box, and we got our Torque grommets installed. So now if you guys are using Torque servos, get the grommets. They're only like $4. They make sure your servo is centered perfectly, tightened down. They look nice. So both of these are done. So now we need to grab the main frame assembly. We also got the motor guards in, so we got those in unmounted. So we're going to go ahead and bolt the servo into place down here. Both tail servos are mounted and booms are on and belts are tensioned. So now we can move on to the rotor push rod, get both of those done, put the tail blades on both of them, and then continue going forward. FBL mount, ESC tray, solder all the connectors up, and keep moving along. But they are looking good. And the orange looks incredible. Really, really liking that orange. Super bright. I love the glossiness. I just got the ESC soldered up, got the ESC trays done. I got the XT60 mounts secured, drilled 2 new holes to move the mount farther back, so that way your connector doesn't stick out so far. And then we got the motor bullets, 4mm bullets soldered onto the motors. So now I am going to get the trays mounted in the helicopter and the ESCs mounted on each tray, and we can keep pushing forward. Got the ESCs mounted, just double-sided taped on the trays, and got the XT60 mounts and carbon fiber trays in. Again, move the XT60 back. So now I also got the FBL mount done on both of them, and the antenna holder is just stuck there. So now I'm going to take a paper towel with some rubbing alcohol, go ahead, clean these surfaces that the icons are going to go to. And then I'm also going to clean under the elevator servo here. And that is so I can double side tape the SRXL2 here, because that's where we run them. And then I'm going to take my SRXL2s that I have right here, and the same thing. Little rubbing alcohol, clean them, let that all evaporate, get it good and clean, grab the icons, clean them, and get everything double-sided taped down and start the wiring. Started the wiring, got the SRXL2 mounted, icons mounted on both models. We got the servo 2, the back elevator servo wire shortened. We got the SRXL2 wire made up. All these servos are covered in heat shrink. So now we're going to take some heat shrink, do the junction piece here, and then the upper part of the wiring is done in both models. And then we're going to come down and start on the ESC side and tail servo. So we have to figure out the length, run these up, cut a bunch off. Same with the tail servo, run it up, cut it off, new ends, heat shrink. So go ahead, do that on both of these models, and then add the telemetry line. Is all wired up. So we got all the top wiring, the bottom, everything is heat shrunk, junction together. We got our fabric paint on the connectors so they don't pop out. We got our wire zip tied down for the motor bullets, XT60 put in place. So now all that's left on this one is we need to get our antenna down, and then I use a dab of fabric paint to hold the antenna down. I like to have a space of my finger gap between the top of the antenna and the blade grip. So go ahead, get that done, let it dry for a few hours, and then now we can move on to this one, which I already have the top half of the wiring done. Junction shrink is on there. Now I just got to start with the bottom, cut these down, shorten them, cover them in heat shrink, and get the telemetry wire ran. Finished wiring up the second one. Everything is heat shrunk. We got our fabric paint on there and drying. Our fabric paint dried on the antennas to hold them down. So now both 420s are completed, wired, and ready for flybarless setup. So now I'm going to grab the laptop, start programming these icons, and let's get these ready to fly. FBLs are set up, canopies are on. These both are ready to fly. So I went ahead and put a little sticker of 1 and 2 on them, just so Andrew can remember which one's which in his radio, and I can remember which one's which. I had a little piece of painter's tape. But these things came out incredible. 2 SAB raw 420 builds done. The orange color scheme looks good. I am very excited to see how it looks in the air. I think it's going to be very visible, and the orange just pops with the white and the clear coat. I really like the clear on the canopies. Carbon fiber shines amazing. I personally prefer the clear over the matte, so I might have to clear coat my yellow one. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this quick little video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Take care and have a great day.